invite Jaakko to the stage. So Jaakko, you are also Agile coach, but in the financial sector, and you said that you have a giant toolbox and you're a master of the ceremony. So what good advices and experiences you will share us next?
Well, let's see. I don't know if it's that giant, but I have some very good ones in there. So I think that the quality goes over quantity in this case. At least I have found them very useful, and I hope that you find them useful as well.
So go ahead.
I'd like to start with just saying, thank you. I'd just like to start with saying, in the that I'm using here is a big fan of Mural, and probably you will soon see why. I am using Mural for my presentation as well, but you could be using, for these exercises that I'm going to be presenting you today, you could be using Whiteboard or Miro or whatever. I mean, there's plenty of those. Kind of call them somehow like sense-making whiteboards. That's why I use them for all the time. I entered the realm of Agile coaching from the facilitation world, so I am kind of that kind of oriented. So maybe you can see that in my presentation as well. So let's see if I can get this working. So today I'm going to be talking about these three things.
Jaakko, can I interrupt you for a moment? Can you
Go ahead.
take the video away? In this case, we have some slight problems with the network connections from your side, so maybe it would help. So if you don't have a video on.
Thanks for the feedback. That helped me a lot. Let's do this again. All right. So these are the three things that I'm going to be talking to you today. And I think the first topic is heavily related to the first presentation that you just saw. I just added the word enforce because, yeah, that's what I think we should be doing. There's also something about creativity and my favorite topic, sense making. So let's go forward, not backward. Enforcing psychological safety is something that I think is crucial to the team building and actually the work life of 2020. And I think that we, as whatever roles we have, coaches or facilitators or whatever, even team members, I think we should expect it from everyone in the team. And I think this is one of the essential skills that you need to have in workplaces nowadays, that you are very sensible to the psychological safety and you have some tools to actually be very productive with it. One of the things, I have three things that I would like to bring up. One of them is that people love to talk about themselves. So if you want them to open up and tell things about the world, ask about themselves. It is subjective knowledge that they have about themselves, and it's quite easy to talk about. You don't have to feel confident in talking about yourself. Another thing is that, at least in my experience with Finns, we tend to be known as people who don't really talk about things. As a facilitator, I've seen that when you ask people to talk to each other, they will do it. And this is something you could utilize quite often when building teams and all that. This is something that we just recently talked about in the small group as well, that you need to pull people in. You need to actually sometimes force them to speak, even though this is quite contradictory to the facilitation methods that we most probably know. I think in remote settings, you just need to pull people up and ask by name. But at the same time, and this is something we just talked about, or maybe touched upon, vulnerability needs to be role modeled. So there needs to be somebody who kind of sets the tone and goes beyond what the team could achieve themselves. And you don't have to make a clown of yourself, but you need to role model vulnerability in a sense that you can do it and nothing really happens to you, and then more people will join you. The example that I'm going to show you is, I think this is something that you could be doing. I mean, the previous presenters might be doing as well, and this is something quite trivial, I would almost say. So this is an example of one of the quadrants that I use. So there's basically 4 fields that have different questions. And obviously, when you are using a whiteboard like this, you have 1 quadrant for each participant. And then everybody feels you reserve some time so that everybody can fill in their own quadrant. In this case, there's 4 questions. I gain energy from, what I expect from the team, my superpowers, and it really grinds my gears when something like this happens. And what this does is this combines the personal and the professional level. So there's some expectation for the team, but also something personal that you can tell about yourself. And I think that the essential part of this is that you can decide what you share. So if you don't feel safe enough to share your personal inner feelings and all your personal stuff, that's all right, because you can use all your professional ideas and professional things that you gain for energy from. And this is something that as a facilitator or a team coach, you can also use as a tool to actually almost like a thermometer, or like a tool to actually see where the team is going, if you see what I mean. So basically what happens here is that people write their notes. These are the post-it notes that you can use in Miro. You can add some pictures if you want of your dogs and your hobbies and all that, and some expectations and so on. And usually what I found out is that I made the same observation, that people are not very good with superpowers, and they are, maybe it's in the culture, in the Finnish culture, I would say, people don't feel comfortable bragging about themselves. So what I've noted is that sometimes people don't get any post-its to this section. So what I do is I ask everybody else to fill in these superpowers, so you get some fun and good feedback as well. So you can kind of combine all of these things that we just talked about. And actually, you might be wondering that, is this something that you could be doing with new team members? It works a bit better when you're in the same room, but actually you can give good feedback to a person that you met 5 minutes ago. And I was surprised when I did that at one time. I didn't think that could have been possible, but I was forced to do that, and it went well. And I was surprised that actually you can give some good feedback about somebody you just met. And well, the quality of that feedback obviously is a bit different than when you give it to somebody that you know for years, but still you can do that. In a remote setting, that's a bit more complicated, but I would just suggest you to just go ahead and try. I mean, it doesn't really hurt. All right. Since I'm already going beyond my time limit, so let's go forward. About creativity, I think adult play requires effort, so you need to really think how you enforce creativity. One of the things why you do need to do that is that it's the third point here. New insights can be hiding in the trivial. So when you play around with people, use the humor that we talked about, or just all kinds of things that stimulate your imagination, that transfers to the work as well. So you push the boundaries of what this team can talk about, and that's why play is important. So fun facts would be one of the examples that I find very funny, and is very engaging as well. It starts with asking people to think of a fun fact of themselves, what the others don't know. So it's a story about yourself from previous eras, from youth, whatever, basically. And then you write it down in a private mode, and this is something special to Mural. So nobody else can see what you write in private mode, and that's how you can do it. There's other ways of doing this as well. So you get as many facts as there are participants, and then you ask people to guess whose fact this is, and you get this kind of map that has different names and all that. And this is also one of the ways of getting feedback of yourself. I, for example, was thought to be a test driver for Mercedes. For some reason, I couldn't really fathom, but apparently I get that. I give that kind of vibe to people that I drive Mercedes or something. I don't know. Anyway, you get this thing, and then you go through them one by one, and then you find out, all right, whose fun fact was this, who was right, and all that, and then Peter, whose fact this was, can have a story time. Like you can time limit that as well, so it doesn't take too long. And then a third thing would be enabling sense making, because we are sense making machines. To us, it makes sense to make sense, right? And I think this is one of the things that you need to build on psychological safety, so that you can make these elaborate guesses about how things really are, because we don't really know it, right? Some of my learnings is that people are smart but know very little, and that's why you need to create that understanding together, so that you know the same things the same way, because that's valuable. We can know, but us as individuals, we can know things, but if we don't know them collectively, they're of no use. Engaging in map making helps understand the terrain, obviously, but we need to be making a lot of maps so that we get the best understanding of the terrain. And this is something that you need to spend some time around. And I think I kind of love this saying that when we see what we say, we can understand what we mean. Because creating meaning, sense making, is a retrospective process. So one of the examples would be to ask people, what's the team purpose? And I think that we've all done this once or twice at least. Another way of asking would be, why do we do this? So people write down these things, and they are all around the place. This is the brainstorming. This is the divergent phase of this exercise. And the next thing you do is ask the people to make groups of them. And this is also something very valuable to the team, so that they, from this big pile of things, they start to make some sense together, and start combining things, and start finding meanings and all that. And then finally, you ask them to create, or like, well, in this case, you ask them to mark the best explanation for that group. What would describe this group the best way? And this is a basis for a lot of discussions and all kinds of sense making. This is like the simplest version of sense making process. Great. I think I did my time already, so thank you. And if you want to connect me, there's my email as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Jaakko. That was inspiring. Now we have a time for questions. At least I see some comments about inspiring exercises, but do you have any comments from to Jaakko?
Or questions, maybe.
Do you have some examples what has not worked?
Well, I think all the exercises have the possibility to not work. I mean, it depends on the team and how ready they are to work with the things that you ask them to work with. So you can fail miserably as well with all of these.
Anyone else examples? What was not working? It would be fun to hear. Sorry.
Maybe one thing that I have noticed that the more stupid the exercise feels, the better it usually works. So people are not like, if it's something that even it fails, but if it's something that gets people like that, oh, what is this and why we are doing this, but it gets like the attention, and that's usually, especially during these remote times, getting people's attention, and that's already a lot. So even if it's not working, I think there is a value if you get people's attention.
Yeah, and I would use the KISS method in this one, so keep it simple, stupid, right? So
yeah,
don't be afraid that it would be too simple.
Yeah. But still, I would say that also the facilitator fails sometimes, or sometimes even more often. So also it's kind of like a human that we fail and show that, okay, this exercise didn't work, so I will try something else for you next time, and that's it, move on. And so maybe that's also that it doesn't matter if it's not always working.
Exactly.
Showing the example that it's all okay to fail. You don't know what is the mood of the people, for example. So are they ready to play this morning with this stupid warm-up thing, or telling their secrets?
And I would guess that facilitators fail more often than people realize facilitators have failed.
That's true. We are just good at hiding it.
That's part of the job, I guess.
Yeah, bigger the group, harder it is to get everybody engaging in an activity.
Yeah.
Even you had nice fancy pictures and you would ask that, hey, what Donald Trump you are this morning? Maybe half of them will answer, but I don't think that's a failure.
Yeah.
It's just,
you get half of people on board.
yeah,
It's
that's still
half
good.
success.
Yeah.
Yeah.